In today's video, I'm going to be painting up these French commanders for Waterloo epic battles. I went ahead and cleaned and mounted these onto bases, starting first with François Étienne de Kellermann, who led the cavalry reserves. The box also contains Jean-Baptiste Drouet, Comte, commander of the French First Corps, tasked at Waterloo to attack Wellington's center. Next in the box is famous Marshal Michel Ney, Napoleon's most trusted cavalry commander. And the box would not be complete without Napoleon Bonaparte himself, l'Empereur of France. And the final model in the box is a Cuirassier commander. This is a generic model, but it looks really good as the leader of any of your Cuirassier brigades. I'm going to be using speed paints, so the first thing I do is prime all my models white. To make priming easier, I put them all on a paint stick with some blue tack, and then I use pure white primer. You can use a rattle can if you want, but I'm using an airbrush here, and I just paint everything in white. Painting it white allows the speed paints that come later to truly stand out and make the models nice and crisp. I start with peachy flesh, and I put this on all the faces of all the 5 models. Whenever you're struggling to start a project, which I kind of was when I started this one, just applying some flesh tone onto the models is a good way to get started and motivated. Next, I move on to the horses. I start with dark wood speed paint, and this is going to go on the horses of both Kellermann and D'Erlon. While I'm painting these horses, I make sure to not paint their mane or tail. Those will have different colors. I next use a light gray speed paint called Ashen Stone, and I apply this onto Marshal Ney's horse. I next switch to grim black speed paint, and looking at the box, this Cuirassier commander is going to have a full black horse. Now what's cool about having a black horse is you can paint the entire thing. It's going to be completely black, including the mane and the tail. And what's also neat about this is that you're painting the brittles black as well, so you can entirely skip that step later, as you will see. I also paint the mane and the tail of D'Erlon and Kellermann's horses with this grim black speed paint, as I'm showing here. Napoleon's horse is well known to be white, and for this I'm going to be using Holy White speed paint. This gives it a slightly grayish tone when you first put it on, but don't worry, it does settle into a fairly whitish look once it's dry. I next use Grey Floyd Gray, and I paint the mane and the tail of Marshal Ney's horse with this darker gray color. I next switch to the lighter beige palette bone speed paint and paint the mane and tail of Napoleon's horse with this slightly light brown color. Now switching back to grim black, I use a finer detailing brush and I apply grim black onto all the brittles like I'm showing here. Just scroll through the video to see which areas of the horse get this grim black color and which areas of the brittles need to be painted black. And like I mentioned earlier, the Cuirassier commander's horse is entirely black, so you don't have to paint the brittles on this one. Now it's time to add some markings onto the horses. Starting with Marshal Ney's horse, I add some Grey Floyd Gray onto the snout, as well as the bottom of the legs of the horse. For Napoleon's horse, I also paint the bottom of its feet with Grey Floyd Gray. I next switched to matte white acrylic paint, not speed paint, but acrylic, and I applied these markings onto Kellermann's horse. Basically an area right around the snout and then at the bottom of the legs. I do something similar with Delon's horse as well. I paint this area of his snout, and I also put some white on one of the front feet. I continue using the matte white acrylic paint, and I touch up areas that I'm going to be applying other speed paint colors onto. I next use broadsword silver metallic speed paint, and I apply this onto Kellermann's sword and also onto the Cuirassier commander's sword. The Cuirassier commander also wears a breastplate, so I'm going to go ahead and apply the silver onto that area as well, front and back. I next switch to Highlord Blue Speed Paint, and with a smaller brush I apply it onto all the tunics of the commanders. All of them except Napoleon get this rich blue color on their tunics. While you're doing this, try to avoid anything that looks like a sash or a belt. You want to leave those white. If you happen to overpaint over those, you can clean it up with a little bit of water and a clean brush, or you can paint them over with white to clean them up after everything is dry. I next switch to Runic Gray. This is a great speed paint color that is gray but with a tinge of blue, and it works really well on Napoleon's greatcoat. It's a signature look for him and it suits this model very well. I next use Blood Red Speed Paint, and this goes in several areas. First, it goes onto all these saddle cloth areas like I'm showing right here. Napoleon's tunic is also red. Apply it with a slightly smaller detailing brush. Michel Ney's crossbody sash is also red. Also paint these two front areas of the Cuirassier's breastplate red. I next switch back to Grim Black Speed Paint, and I apply this onto all the bicorn hats on all of the models. You will also be using Grim Black on all the boots on all of the models. I next use Fire Giant Orange Speed Paint for the burning red hair on Michel Ney's head. While I admit that this color looks pretty loud when you put it on, it is also very distinctive, allowing you to very easily identify Michel Ney on the tabletop. I next use Zealot Yellow Speed Paint. This is a slightly more orange tint of yellow, and this is going to go on all the sashes around the waist of each rider. Basically everyone gets this color besides Napoleon. He doesn't have an exposed sash. I next use Glittering Loot Speed Paint, and this is going to go on all the decorative trim on the saddle cloths like I'm showing here. This gold also goes on all the epaulettes on the shoulders. On this area here on the bicorn hats. On the hilts and pommels of the swords. On the sword scabbards. And any of the decorative trim on the chests of the riders. I next revisit Darkwood Speed Paint, and I apply this onto all the hair of all the riders besides Michel Ney. The finishing step is to use matte white acrylic paint and basically clean up all the pants and the gloves of all the riders, making them look nice, neat, and crisp. I finished everything off by basing with some flocking and white glue. Apply the white glue onto the base and then dunk it into the flocking, and you are all set. Finally, protect all your models with 2 coats of matte clear varnish. Here is a look at the Cuirassier commander, Marshal Jean-Baptiste Drouet, Marshal François Étienne de Kellermann, Marshal Michel Ney, and l'Empereur de France, Napoleon Bonaparte. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that this was helpful for you to paint up your French commanders for Waterloo epic battles. These were tiny but very detailed models that were a real joy to paint. I hope you join me in my future videos, and until the next time, happy hobbying.